Born Without Boundaries. This is a general energies reading. It is not me drawing cards for anybody specifically. It's not me answering questions. It's me doing a reading for anybody who's drawn to it. So you'll know the reading is for you because you were drawn to join, not for any other reason. This is not a zodiac sign specific reading. If you want those, they start to come out tomorrow. They start to come out tomorrow over on the main channel, Born Without Boundaries Tarot. So I hope you guys can check those out. Cancer, Leo, and Virgo were just released on Friday, and then Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Libra will be released tomorrow. So if you're looking for those, you go over there to find them. I'll attach a link above. Usually what I do is I go live on Instagram, and I will film this live on Instagram. Hi. And interact live with people over there, and then I will upload it to Astrology Motivation. Instagram is down. They're having major problems right across the board. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever's owned by that platform is down, completely frozen out. So I thought, well, why miss out on the daily tarot card reading? I will just go live over here on Astrology Motivation. So I'm really, really grateful for anybody who can join. I understand that this is a change in schedule. Normally I do Monday Astrology Motivation anyway, so we can talk a little bit about that at the same time. What I was going to talk about was the 369 kind of number sequence that I featured in my weekly astrology forecast. And I think that's an important forecast to watch. So I hope you guys got to do it. 369 is actually a mathematical sequence. It's really, I don't think Nikola Tesla was trying to be spiritual at all, but he was seeing that there was definitely patterns that were forming when he did the math. When and numerically, I can't get into that stuff because I'm not an expert. I'm not a mathematician. I couldn't really explain it to you. The spiritual community has kind of ingested it and spit it out as this is a magical number. Now, I think it must be very significant mathematically. And ultimately, I feel like if it's coming from math and not from spirituality, you have to respect the math aspect, and you shouldn't really talk about it unless you understand the math behind it. And I don't really understand the math behind it, but I can say that I immediately thought, wow, this is interesting and not just coincidental. This week starts on October 3rd and it ends on October 9th, and dead center then is October 6th. And October 6th, as an astrologer, I know a lot of big things happen. Pluto goes direct, and we start this new moon, this dark moon, right? That comes in Libra, and all this is happening in Libra. And I did say when Pluto went retrograde back in Taurus that we got to really watch our Venetian qualities, those qualities of luxury, beauty, love, romantic relationships, as well as finances, right? Especially larger luxury items, buying houses, the exchange of investments, all of those kind of currencies, etc., etc. Those are Venus run, right? So ultimately, and that's why Taurus rules those things, the house of finance, right? The house of your worldly finances and your ability to build that out. That's Taurus, and Taurus's natural ruler is, of course, Venus. So ultimately, I saw that there was this connection between the beginning and the end of Pluto's retrograde, which once again ends on the 6th, and it's ending on this new moon in Libra, which is what do new moons specifically represent? They represent a time of total finishedness, of total doneness, of total completion, and then resurrection. So a complete blank slate and new beginning. And what have we learned, and what has Pluto taught us, and what has it destroyed in our lives or taught us over the past 6 months about how we behave when it comes to all of those, especially Venus aligned attributes, right? Because Libra, here we are again in another season that's ruled by Venus. Venus is now in or heading into Sagittarius. It heads into Sagittarius this week. Let me check. Hold on. I know it heads into Sagittarius. Just want to be sure of the date. Because it's in maybe in Sagittarius right now. Hold on. I just want to be sure that I'm not misquoting, because I do that a lot. I get very distracted. Yeah, Venus enters Sagittarius on Thursday, the day after the new moon. So that's another big transit that we have to pay attention to, because it goes from, and it's sat in Scorpio for the past, say, about 2 months, right? And it sat there, and Venus in Scorpio is very uncomfortable. But Scorpio also has, it's really interesting, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, right? And it has these resurrective qualities of, look at yourself, look at the way that you try to control things, look at the way you try to escape things or hide things when you can't control them, look at what it's doing to you, look at how it destroys things. Venus is very uncomfortable. She's very controlling. She's very obsessive when she's in Scorpio. And she has to face herself a lot, right? In terms of, what am I doing? How am I sabotaging myself? All of those themes are now coming up to the surface for us to have to look at, analyze, and see and own. How have we helped ourselves hurt ourselves? You know, Chiron has been in a very, very particular position, matching off in opposition the Sun and Mars. How have we fucked ourselves? And how can we use this pain and suffering that we've had to endure, all the losses, all the traumas, how can we use it to actually help ourselves and reconstruct ourselves and rebuild ourselves, or in particular, our partnerships and our relationships with other people? And that's what we come back around to here on October 6th, when Pluto goes direct. Yeah, and we have the new moon as well. How can we reset? How have we learned? What have we learned? How have we learned to relinquish control and have faith in another's ability and what they can add to our lives, instead of maybe trying to hyper control everything? And why do we really try to hyper control things? 10 to 1, it's fear. It's fear or to greed. And greed is, I think, fear driven as well. And ultimately, that's what we have to face when we're in Scorpio, is those evils and those ugly things that people try to keep hidden. And that's what Venus has been facing for this past, like, whatever, how many months. Like, yeah, that's on her journey in the underworld, that's what she's been facing. And ultimately, now that she starts to come back up into Sagittarius, things will lighten up a little bit, right? But ultimately, yeah, we'll talk about Venus and Sagittarius later. But ultimately, what's important is what she's bringing up. How she's working with Pluto, who rules that scorpionic energy and who is now coming direct because he's been through his retrograde. How she's working with him to bring up this shit and show us this shit and make us face this shit and figure out now. You see how much stronger you are when you face something? You see how much stronger you are when you don't try to hide it? You see how lighter and more agile you become and capable you become when you don't try to hyper control or obsess over something, over other people, when you trust? You see, the problem, the real challenge with Venus and Scorpio is that she's not trusting. She tries to control everything. And people with Venus that have Venus in Scorpio in their natal charts will always have those challenges in relationships, to not hyper control or hyper obsess over a relationship, but to focus on the health of the relationship and the equality between the partners. That will always be a struggle for people with Venus and Scorpio. And that was the overall modality of what was happening, like looking at ourselves and what do we try to hyper control. And this is all coming up as Pluto goes direct. This is all like on the boardroom, on the table, and you know, who survived, who didn't, because you know, heads can roll when Pluto's coming direct, right? He's making decisions based on the quality he's seen, And he really don't give a goddamn about anybody's opinion. Like Pluto could care less about political correctness. And so the more resistance we've had, the more we suffer, and the more malleable we've been able to be, the more humble we've been able to be. Honestly, the better you're going to come through this, no matter what you've had to face or deal with. So, and I'm not trying to say, even though Pluto is considered the great punisher, right? The great destroyer, that's a really naive way to look at Pluto, because Pluto cannot and will not destroy what is connected to God. If it's connected to God and it's been in its God space and it is 100% done by the will of God, the universe, then there's no destruction. Pluto can't destroy. He's not that powerful. He's just not, He has a job to do. And his job is to get rid of the weak shit. And it's spiritually weak, because Pluto is a very spiritual planet. So it's not about weak in your health or weak in your money. It's about spiritually weak. What is spiritually weak? What is not connected to your divine center? And that's what Pluto destroys. And so in a lot of ways, he's trying to help us. And what we're going to see is this is a very internal destruction, not external destruction. This is a lot of our walls coming down inside. And I think that that's why this has been a very emotionally challenging period for people, especially over the past 2 months, especially over the past month. This has been a very emotionally challenging period for people, because we have been like, these boundaries inside of ourselves, these walls that we've put up have been crumbling, and there's a lot of like mass exodus of built up shit, and we have to let it come out. We have to be brave enough to let it come out and not try to, hey James, not try to hyper control our circumstances. So that's what's happening, and that's what's all coming up. And I thought it was really interesting how it started on the 3rd, and the 3rd is a number of the divine, the connection of the divine. And then the 6 in the middle of it plop in the middle, right? 6 is the world. It's terrestrial value. It is also hopefully balance, right? A 3 and a 3 equal on both sides, right? And then we have 9 coming out, which is the change and the transition and the connection to the higher power, and actually manifestation, bringing something into reality, bringing the change into reality. So if we are connected with the divine, and that's our job to do that early in this week, then by the time we reach that 6th point where shit starts to get real, we'll be able to use that energy to conduct it in a way to build the world that is really true to our hearts. Let's put it that way. And that's what I'm saying is the magic, which is really just manifestation behind the 3, 6, 9. Now, you can watch any number of videos on YouTube or TikTok that have this manifestation technique where they use the numbers 3, 6, 9, writing what I want in the morning, 3 times, in the afternoon 6 times, in the evening 9 times. If you'd like to do that, if it helps you to focus, this is definitely the time to do that. This is a new moon, so it is about saying, hey, this is the world that I want to build. This is my clean slate. Remember, this is a new moon in Libra, so ask yourself, I'm at a clean slate now, so what do I want to build with others? Do I want to build my trust? Do I want to build my connectivity? You have to trust in order to connect, right? Do I want to build my courage by allowing myself to be more vulnerable and trusting people more, or connecting more? Like how can I improve how I interact with and connect with others, and the partnerships that I build, opening myself up for different partnerships, or partnerships with different kinds of people, perhaps, instead of I have a type, forget about it. How about the right person? Hey to you, Liz in Michigan. Yeah, so that's sort of what we can really channel on this new moon. Also, finances, because Venus rules finances, this sense of bringing in the abundance so that you can start to build your home, bringing in the abundance so that you can increase your value. It's okay. Like, you don't have to be ashamed to say, I want a more comfortable life, or I want more money for the work that I do. That's a fair conversation to have right now. Venus can appreciate those conversations. In Sagittarius, as she slips into Sagittarius on Thursday, really the best way to channel the Venus energy is to let yourself explore and let yourself have adventures and meet different people and open yourself up to foreigners or people who would be foreign to you, because it's these kind of awakenings that may lead you to what you are manifesting and praying for. FYI. So let us get back to Monday. Today is a very good day. It's Monday the 4th. We are in, the moon is in Virgo, and Llewellyn's Witch's Date book is saying this: hair ornaments of mulberry wood enhance knowledge, wisdom, and willpower. Hair ornaments of mulberry wood, I'm assuming that's a kind of tree, right? Enhance knowledge, wisdom, and power. So mulberry wood and hair ornaments. Okay, so near the crown chakra. Interesting how that is about opening up the crown chakra, opening up our wisdom. Remember, wisdom is not just knowledge or being able to process information. Wisdom is that beautiful balance between experience, empathy, and information. And so it's a trifecta, right? It's the divine. So let's get into the reading. Guys. For those of you who are sending chats to me, I'm sorry if I've missed them, but yeah. Anyway, let's keep going. Because when I'm channeling or talking, I can't really always respond, but I will try. FYI, yes, I do have super chats enacted, so if you would like to send a donation to Born Without Boundaries, I would be very grateful. It's an option. So, what do the cards want to say? There's something that we have to just give up on. Completely and totally give up. It hasn't worked. We have to accept it. And now we have to look in another direction. Why has this not worked out? It hasn't worked out because it wasn't meant to be. It was never going to be, no matter how hard. If you work on something day in and day out and it just isn't effective, you have to give it up. Now, maybe what you have to give up is the way you're working on it. Right? Maybe it's not that I've been wanting to be with somebody, I've been wanting partnership, but it just hasn't come, so I guess I'm just meant to be single for the rest of my life. No, it could mean the process. Remember, those are pentacles. 7 of Pentacles is a process. Something about the process wasn't correct. Something about the process was killing the plant instead of nurturing it. So now we're going to go and get educated and try to learn and understand what that was and what we can do. Ultimately, what we can do. And then we have these cards. 7 of Pentacles is here. In the central, I'm sorry, 7 of Cups is here at the central energy, which means we have choices, right? Which means we do have options, but we're also confused. And that's an honest place to be. And I always say confusion doesn't really exist. Confusion is a symptom of basically fighting against what you know is really true. So stop fighting what's really true and you won't be confused anymore. But confusion is that central energy right here. Hold on. I just want to experiment. Hold on. Okay. We have the Queen of Pentacles. So there's abundance here. There's abundance, but also a sense of giving too much. And then we have the King of Cups, who doesn't give away a lot. He's actually very contained in his feelings for something. So this is definitely the mentality of, interesting. So let's go through the cards. We start with the Seven of Pentacles, and we went with the Three of Wands. And then we went with the Three of Pentacles, which means our work is good, right? And we want to learn how to improve our work, right? Which could mean taking classes, taking criticism, getting other people's opinions. Because right now it feels like in some ways we have been left out. We have been left behind. We have a great deal of stress and suffering that almost we're implementing toward ourselves. And then we have this. And it's almost in some ways like an offer we haven't seen, an offer we don't see, an offer that's there, but we're looking in the wrong direction, right? Blinding ourselves because why? Because we're only looking at things one way. Success only looks one way to us. Romance only looks one way to us. We could have killed something because we didn't understand what life looks like. Do you know what I'm saying? It's almost like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or throwing the whole plant out when really just half of it had died and you didn't have to throw the whole thing out. Those kind of things, a sense of we're just missing something. Why? Because we're distracted. And that's what the Seven of Cups is. We're distracted, and it turned itself over. This week is about becoming unconfused, about the veil lifting, and about us finally being able to realize and wake up to what's in front of us, or maybe what we already have. And that could be information. It doesn't just have to be money or things. In this mentality, it could be feelings. It could be ideas. It could be we already have the information. We just didn't know what to do with it. We're sitting there constantly putting it aside, thinking that it's worthless. And now that we see it differently, or that we've learned about it, we realize, wow, that's not worthless. That's a winning lottery ticket. Or the metaphor for one. Maybe literally. Maybe, you think that you have a losing ticket, but you didn't realize that you didn't even it's that mentality of you thought it was a losing ticket because you confused it with something else. Or you misread the dates, right? Something like that. And it's like the confusion is lifting. Clarity comes through that realization, that, oh my God, that discovery. That leads to triumph, that leads to victory. Something here is a hard-won victory, but there's the Ace of Swords always brings a great deal of prosperity with it. The Ace of Swords reminds me of Pluto going direct, right? It's painful. There's been a lot of pain that has had to be suffered to raise that sword in victory. But once it is, there's permanent changes. There's just you can't look away from everything you've learned to get to the Ace of Swords. Because if you look in the tarot deck, the swords are the most painful suit. Even the nice swords have some pain involved in it. Right? So ultimately, they're all about learning and awakening. And once you reach the Ace of Swords, it's like you're fucking metal, man. It's like you're made of goddamn steel. You must be the man of steel, and you must be, because the weak don't survive the swords. They just don't. And then we have the Four of Swords here, which is knowing when to say no, knowing when to relax. Knowing when to relinquish control and say, let me just review everything. Let me try to learn from it. Let me try to absorb it if I can, or, I can't use it. So get away with what I don't. It's about reflecting on everything you've been through. So taking a time to reflect on everything that you've been through. And then we have, not a coincidence, the dark moon. Okay, this side is the full moon and this is the dark moon. So what is coming up from the depths? What is coming up that you've tried to hide or do away with or not face? Especially when it concerns the fourth house. How has that influenced you? It's interesting here how the pillars seem very stable, right? But in back, they're hollow. So this is almost your Lilith. And Lilith is the dark moon. Lilith is the truth. Lilith is not the truth. Lilith is the truth of your fears. That's what she is. And so to face the truth of your fears is to vanquish your worst enemy. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles. And she is very benevolent, but who have you been paying off, right? Who have you been trying to impress with just the money that you make? Who have you been, what have you been putting yourself through in order to be accepted as abundant? And then we have the King of Cups, who is kind of withholding love or withholding enthusiasm until he is certain. It's about insecurities. That's what this is bringing up. A bunch of insecurities. And it could be that two insecure people, insecure in different ways, have found each other. And they found each other to teach each other a lesson. They are upright, however. So they could be this sense of partnership. How you need somebody else to point out those aspects of yourself because you wouldn't be able to see them, or you need somebody else because the King of Cups knows how to shut down. The Queen of Pentacles doesn't. She's very organized. She runs things very well. She's very fair to everybody but herself. She just bleeds dry herself. The King of Cups knows how to not bleed himself dry, but he doesn't know how to open up and try. He doesn't take a lot of chances that way. So she would. So in other words, you're finding the balance to your life in another person, right? That's kind of what it is. And that's good as long as you're allowing the other person to teach you the things you need to learn to make you stronger and improve yourself. Not if you're just going to use them as a lifelong crutch. FYI. So let's get into the Moonology cards. Okay. We have, what do you need to release? And then balance spirituality with practicality. That's what it's talking about. Balancing spirituality with practicality. What do you need to release? Including those fantastical beliefs that we've interpreted, that we've accepted. Like those fantastical beliefs of, maybe why are we believing in this if it's not true? Right? Is it helping us or is it hindering us? Balancing spirituality with practicality is also about finding that happy space, that happy balance of, is this in line with my God space, right? Is this in line with what really makes me happy? How have I allowed that to be ruined and wrecked and sort of paid the devil in return for I'll do this even though I hate it. I'll do this even though it drains my soul. Where in my life have I enabled those things to happen? I have to get back to that balance of feeling good about what I do. Yeah, feeling good about what I do. Feeling whole about what I do. Feeling happy that I'm engaging in what I'm engaging in. What do you need to release and let go of? If it hasn't worked for you, if it hasn't made your soul feel balanced, get it out of the way. Interesting. That's really interesting, those two. What do you need to release? Balance spirituality and practicality. Inner conflict. New beginnings. Isn't this what it's all about? That's amazing that this is what it's all about, this reading. Inner conflict is, how have I piecemealed myself? How have I become sad or depressed, or how have I told myself, when have I told myself there are aspects of me that don't deserve love? That there are aspects of me that don't deserve to be nurtured. That there are aspects of me that nobody would ever be capable of loving. That's the inner conflict, the fear that's coming out. And this is the chance to gain freedom from that. Freedom from those beliefs. Especially if you've been rejected. Right? Say you've been rejected, and what does that mean to you? And what have you allowed it to teach you? I'm not worthy, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, those kind of things may not have been true. You may have been rejected because you were overqualified. Or even if you weren't, right? We always try to like soup ourselves up with those, oh, maybe you were rejected because you were just too good, or you were rejected because he just doesn't like intelligent women. Maybe you were rejected because simply this, it wasn't right for you. And what is right for you is still out there, and you still have to reach it. And maybe it's just that simple, and that's the practical balance instead of the fantastical thought on either side. Either I'm too ugly, I'm not worth it, or I'm so amazing that I was way too good for that anyway. Maybe it's neither of those, and it's just in the middle, right? Come Wednesday, when we realize it just wasn't practical. It just wasn't gonna work. It was the wrong mindset. We were trying it the wrong way. So in order to do it the right way, we have to be open and vulnerable to the fact that, okay, this didn't work out. Maybe I'm disappointed, maybe I'm hurt, maybe I'm upset. Okay, maybe I'm all of those things, but ultimately, yes, I am still worthy, but yes, I'm also still humble, right? There is a sense of I'd have to know humility, but I also have to know self-worth. I can't go to those fantastical extremes, which are both driven by fear, right? Pride and greed are both driven by fear. So it's balancing out those two and liberating yourself, like accepting all aspects of you, including those things that maybe you need to laugh at or cry about, right? New beginning is here. The throat chakra, you've been holding back. This is about things that have been unsaid. And maybe this is the thing. A truth hasn't come out. Something has been kept back or held back or suppressed, right? And it's caused a great deal of turmoil inside. But now there's a relinquishing and a release from that. Okay. So there's something here, partnerships and alliances. Something has been suppressed. Something has been kind of swallowed. And we need freedom from that. I mean, if I didn't know better, there was just something here either about, it's one of two extremes. So it's either a relationship that's been kept going because people didn't say what they needed to say and weren't honest with each other. So in other words, it's a situation that's still intact, but it's based on lies, in which case that's going to be decimated by Pluto. Or it's a partnership that did not get a chance to be because things were left unsaid. Depending on which side you're on. Or conversations that you need to have. Yeah, honest, open communication. I think that, okay, let me just wait for the cards to come out. Here, oh, yep, no place like home. But it came out in reverse. So there's trouble. It could be fourth house trouble with the family, something you're not telling somebody, something maybe not having talked to somebody for a while. Call your family. Call your family this whole week. Open up those lines of communication, talk to them, celebrate them, open up to them. I feel like something's going on where ultimately you need to call home, you need to talk, you need to resolve some issues. And then we have come to the edge. You've been avoiding this to play it safe. There's been an avoidance. Somebody's been tiptoeing around or avoiding talking about something because of fear. Maybe fear of being judged, fear of being rejected. It doesn't matter. It's fear. I couldn't see that. That faded too quickly. Sorry about that. I didn't read that quickly. Yeah, but this was definitely avoidance. In other words, come to the edge in reverse means you're avoiding something that's inevitably supposed to end. And you don't have that right and you don't have that power. And this is what Pluto takes from us. You know, we may have a shit ton of excuses and a shit ton of good reasons to hold on tighter and control even more. But that doesn't make it right or true or sincere. And ultimately what's going to happen is it's going to completely crumble. I am free. Being liberated, being free. And that's what Pluto really brings, is freedom from our own lies. Freedom from our own self-destructiveness. Freedom from our own bullshit and graves that we've dug ourselves into. I am free. There's somebody here being released, being freed. Especially those in bad partnerships or bad living situations, home situations. Confrontation. Pick your battles wisely. Wow. This is not an easy day, is it? But there definitely is confrontation. Awakening. And this is the new moon. Energetic upgrades, a new way of being, integration. Play, have fun, celebrate, don't be so serious. Because it's really not just us all by ourselves ever. It's always an integration with the divine. And that playfulness just reminded me of when the moon goes into Sagittarius, which right after the new moon, it will. Awakening to all our truths and then being released from all that heaviness and sadness that we convinced ourselves into. And now we can just be playful and have a good time. In other words, it may not be as bad as you think it is. Or the confrontation of this situation may not be as bad as you think it is. Or the situation itself may not be as bad as you think it is. Whoa. Whoa. Yellow jasper. Control issues. Wow. Utilize your God-given strength and power instead of fearing that others may try to control you. Maybe it's not about what they've kept you from. Maybe it's about what you've kept yourself from. Just focus on using your energy toward the things that make you happy instead of requiring that other people participate the way you've dictated they have to. It's also plain and simple, relinquish control. Relinquish control. And then we have Kyanite. Make time for self-care. Taking care of yourself is essential right now. I didn't see this week as a horribly destructive week. I saw this week in the weekly astrology forecast, I saw this week as restorative. The end so that we can build again. Like the finishing of the storm so that we can start finally getting back to rebuilding. I think it's a very forgiving energy. It's like, I read this essay one time, and it was called The X Factor, and I can't remember who wrote it. It was part of one of my college classes early on, right out of high school. So it was interesting. The X Factor was the word that the author was using for the ineffable character trait that caused people to damage themselves even more based on an irrational fear. And it used the example of drug addicts who, either drug addicts or runaways from home, being willing to expose themselves, being willing to expose themselves to living on the streets as opposed to going home and facing their parents' shame. Being ashamed of them, because these weren't people from abusive households. Like, you could understand somebody's being beaten every day, they just want to get the fuck out of the house, right? It's safer on the streets than at home. But this wasn't it. This was the people with the mindset or the mentality that I'm better on the streets just so I don't have to face my parents being ashamed of me for coming home at 1 o'clock in the morning instead of 11 o'clock p.m. when my curfew was. So I'll just stay out all night and expose myself to ridiculous shit in order to avoid basically being grounded for a week. Do you understand? That was the X factor. That was the X factor thinking. I'm going to put myself in a worse position because of that fairy tale, fear-filled mentality of, I just don't want to face my shame. I just don't want to face my pride, right? And that's kind of what this is. So this week is all about facing your shame and facing your pride, and then allowing yourself to love yourself through that and give yourself what you need to heal, including if you have to suffer punishments, knowing that you're strong enough. I can make it through this. I can make it through this. Yeah, I can make it through this. I can do this. Because what's on the other side of this is health and healing. And what's on the opposite direction, avoiding this, is something that I need to let go of. I don't have the strength for that anymore. I don't have the strength to avoid the bullshit. I have to dig through it now. Or face it. And what's interesting enough is when you start to face it, it starts to dissipate. And you start to realize it's not this big pile of shit. That was just your fantastical brain made it this huge issue when it really wasn't. And when you actually face it, it's not half as formidable as it was in your fantastical brain that just wanted you to avoid it. So it's almost like that pile immediately gets smaller. Things are not as bad as you think they are. And you can get through whatever challenges are on the other side. This is the way through. This is the way through. Healing. Healing angel. At this very moment, you are being bathed in gold, pink, and deep green light. Accept this healing. We, your angels, surround you with wings of love. You are eternally free, eternally fresh, and eternally abundant. Sacred source, we, your angels, are here to help. I don't know what people are saying. Here, we, your angels, are here to remind you of your magnificence. You are literally an angel in the making, a being of eternal love and light, forever one with God, Goddess, and all creation. So, remembering the source in you is how you start to forgive yourself for what you have felt were unforgivable things. Or face yourself to what you thought were such fearsome things you could never face them. Is remembering the source, connecting with the source that still lives inside of you, aka faith. Okay. I'm sorry, hold on. Okay, sorry. I just had to do that. I don't have any moderators on here, so ultimately that's just, I don't know what's going on. Archangel Gabriel is here. You will soon receive some positive news. What did I tell you? The channels for clear and honest communication are now open. Keep an open heart and speak your truth lovingly without fear. Especially toward the end of this week, it'll get a little bit easier when the moon goes into Sagittarius for us to just stay lighthearted. You know, for us to like not take shit so seriously and to stay lighthearted. And I think that that will help us out a great deal. I hope you have a beautiful Monday. Yeah, I should be on Instagram tomorrow, but I don't know. I will see. I thank you all for joining me today. It's wonderful that I had 46 people on here. I'm really grateful. And maybe I'll be on here tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe we'll do the daily tarot card reading live here again. But I want to say thank you for stopping by and for joining me for this day. This is a really powerful and beautiful week. And I think it's just gonna be not gonna be as bad as we think it would be. The depths. What? Yeah, it depends on Instagram. If Instagram comes back up. So we'll see. We'll just have to, we'll play it by ear. But thank you for joining me today. I love you guys. And thank you, Attila. Thank you, Miranda. So appreciative of you guys. Thank you for joining me. And I will see you guys tomorrow.